This is Dennis Chima, the Executive Director of the Foothill-De Foundation. I'm joined today by Matt Bodo, a proud graduate of Foothill College and an incredible student and community activist in his own right. He's joining us from UCLA, where he transferred. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Matt, tell us a little bit about your history with Foothill College and coming to community college and where you are today.
Sure. I graduated Foothill College in 2019 with 5 associate's degrees, actually. Really loved and still do love Foothill. But getting there was a little bit of a journey, to be honest. I struggled in high school because of a lot of different things, including some issues with homelessness and abuse in my household. And as a result, I went on to pursue a GED instead of a high school diploma, which left me in a position where I wasn't sure if I was going to go on to college or not. But one of the instructors at the Mountain View Los Altos Adult Education Center, Charlie, told me that I really had to try community college. And he specifically told me about Foothill because of it just being a great school. He said that there were plenty of resources and resources that would apply to me and help support me to be able to meet my educational goals, which were not always transferring. I originally just went planning to get a certificate, but I was just so motivated and supported by the school that I went on to do the things that I've done. And now I'm here at UCLA, something I never would have thought I'd see happen.
Congratulations on transferring to UCLA. When you started at Foothill, did you have an educational plan or did you rely on the team there to help make that for you? And then ultimately, what did you study?
I came in again with the goal of trying college and maybe getting a certificate. They're all very tentative goals because education was not something that I had a great history with. But particularly my EOPS counselor helped me to figure out what I needed to do to transfer. Originally, I planned to transfer solely for psychology, then switch to communications and back and forth, but they were able to help me create a plan that let me get associate's degrees in both of those subjects and to have the opportunity to apply to more than one major to different schools. And at UCLA, I've ended up here as a linguistics and psychology major. So kind of a nice combination between both of those goals. It's the perfect medium.
Now, Matt, you mentioned that you participated in EOPS, which is Extended Opportunities Programs and Services, a statewide program at community colleges throughout the state. It provides some additional support to students, including some additional counseling, book vouchers, those kinds of things. Tell me about your experience with EOPS and why was that so valuable?
Oh, EOPS is incredible. I mean, I remember struggling to be able to afford textbooks because textbooks ended up costing for a quarter, sometimes more than tuition was. And EOPS was able to alleviate that burden with the book vouchers. But not only that, I was able to meet with the counselor very regularly. I remember going in the 12-week quarter, I think I met with my counselor 12 times. And that was a resource that was just available to me. And it helped me, again, figure out my educational plan. But when I opened up about struggling with housing and food security, those sort of things, EOPS was knowledgeable enough to put me in contact with people that were able to meet those needs, help me meet those needs. And so EOPS was and is a great bridge for students that are struggling to help them find the support that they need.
You mentioned EOPS. Were there other support services on campus that you took advantage of and perhaps might not have been able to succeed without those?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most valuable for me was the food pantry, especially as a student that was working often entire days and then going to school for an entire day, not having a kitchen, not having a fridge, things like that, there was almost no opportunity to prepare food or to go and buy food, and to be able to walk in to that food pantry and get food right then and there, especially now that the food pantry has things like fresh fruit. It made it possible that I could eat 3 meals a day, which would not have been a reality for me otherwise. And I can attest to how difficult it is to go through life, let alone study, when you're hungry and when you can only think about how
And
you're
as you
going to
think
get
about
your next
support
meal.
inside of Foothill College and community college, I assume there were other resources that the college was able to point you to outside as well.
Right. Yeah, the college was able to point me to resources that might have existed outside, such as food banks, to places where I could shower, get basic hygiene products, and places where I could find work even, which is something that might not, I don't know if everybody considers being able to give students an opportunity to work outside of the college, is incredible. And it was something that I really, really valued.
Now, when you were at Foothill, you went to school full-time and worked full-time. Is that correct? Or
Right.
do I have that off?
That's right. There were, I think, a few brief periods where I worked part-time, but for the most part, I was working and going to school full-time.
And you were very active in student government, student outreach, student clubs, as I recall.
That's right.
And how did those affect you think?
I definitely, I don't feel obligated. I want to give kudos to ASFC, the student government at Foothill, because they really gave me community. EOPS was also a great source of community, but being in the student government gave me opportunities to step up and sort of have a backing by my community to do the things that I really cared about, which included advocacy work for basic needs, hunger, homelessness, and it was incredibly motivating, as well as reassuring to know that I I wasn't the only student that cared about these things, and it gave me confidence to step up and do the things that I have done.
As you think about your time at Foothill, what do you think it taught you about yourself and about your own talents and abilities?
Foothill helped me realize that I really do have the capacity to make change, which in a world where sometimes we can feel overwhelmed by the number or the magnitude of the problems around us, Foothill, again, allowed me to feel like I could make a difference. Seeing things come together at the community college, at Foothill College, and help students that I knew or that I could see having tangible change like that made me feel so empowered to continue to do the things that I love to do around basic needs advocacy, as I've mentioned so many times.
And right now you're at UCLA. Do you think that you would be there at UCLA were it not for your time at community college?
Absolutely not. There's no way. I could not picture a future where I would be here at UCLA without Foothill. Um, there were so many moments where every bone in my body wanted to give up, but having the support of EOPS, of ASFC, of people in the Office of Student Affairs just gave me motivation to continue. And not only motivation, but very literal resources like food, direction towards finding housing, and financially supported me through scholarships. I could not picture myself being here.
Let's talk a little bit about scholarships. Through your own hard work in the classroom and outside of the classroom, you received some scholarships from the Foothill-De Foundation through Foothill College. Talk to us a little bit about how valuable those scholarships were to you and what they've been able to offer you.
Those scholarships actually helped me to afford a place to live so I could finally stop living in my car, which was a huge step for me in terms of obviously quality of life and just a big turning point in my life where I really felt like education was truly for me. Having that support again allowed me to rent my own room, have a bed, and made the difference between sleeping in my car cold at night to having a real habitat. I don't know what that, I'm not quite sure what that word is, but at UCLA, the scholarships that the Foothill-De Foundation and other scholarships from Foothill they've given me the opportunity to, again, have a place to live, as there's a policy for university dorm housing that if you essentially between quarters, you need to pay more money to stay in the dorms because it's not included in a typical year's rent. So having the backing of those scholarships, again, as a student with no home to go to, those scholarships allowed me to pay for these stay-throughs and stay housed when I normally would not have been able to.
As you think about other Foothill and De Anza students in our area here who might have similar circumstances, who might have some similar circumstances at home, in their high school, in the classroom, in their workplace, but have now come back to college, how important do you think things like book vouchers and emergency vouchers and other activities that are funded through Foothill-De Anza Foundation and the two colleges, how valuable do you think those are?
They're totally, totally invaluable. I mean, when you're enrolled and suddenly realize that maybe tuition is only half of what it costs to take a class because of books, that may be the difference between continuing to stay enrolled or not. Having book vouchers allowed me to be able to take classes. And as we know, food insecurity is a huge issue for college students. And as I've said, I can attest to how difficult it is to live life, let alone study, when your concern is finding your next meal. So being able to eat, to have food in your stomach, to be able to afford your books and have the financial security that emergency grants provide completely change your mental state and allow you to succeed, and have allowed me to succeed as a student. So I really cannot, their value is understated, I would say, at most times, and I can't express how grateful I am for those.
How is the pandemic that we're currently experiencing here as we sit in this interview in December of 2020, how is the pandemic affecting you? And how do you see it, how you see yourself coming out of the other side?
Well, to be specific, I had some pretty tough times because of the pandemic during spring quarter. Had to do some moving for obvious safety reasons. And my family was impacted by COVID enough that I am now taking care of financially and in providing housing, etc. My youngest sister, who now lives with me here. So it's definitely increased not only but my family's level of stress, of need, and particularly, I would say, I've had a tough time trying to be a provider and a student at the same time, which is not something I think would be happening had COVID not come about.
And you're certainly not alone in that, as students throughout the colleges and with the four-year institutions, community colleges are experiencing that, particularly as their work opportunities during their school and work schedule have been limited. So we certainly understand. Thank you for sharing that story with us.
Of course.
If you think about programs and interventions, particularly at community colleges, what are the kinds of things that you think about are most valuable to all students? What will get them from the first day they walk in the door to graduation day or their certification or their degree? What are those programs and interventions that you think are most valuable?
Wow, there's a lot to answer with that. I think one of the most important things in my experience has been having somebody that I can go to that's sort of I don't want to call a person a one-stop shop, but somebody that's knowledgeable enough and well connected within the college to be able to answer my questions or direct me to where I need to go, similar to akin to a case manager and somebody that really knows me well.
But you participated in EOPS, which in fact is some of that case management, right? It's having somebody on the ground that can help you academically and as your advocate in some spaces, and sometimes lighting a fire under you so that you get things done that you're supposed to get done on time, whether it's transferring or applications to universities, et cetera, right? I mean, those are the kinds of on the ground supports that you think are valuable to students.
Right. Yeah. Having an ally is
Yeah.
huge.
And I think sometimes there's this perception that, community college students or, given the thousands of folks we see at Foothill and De Anza who are coming from throughout the region, that they are this singular group, but it's really a whole diverse pool of folks who come, right? It's folks come from out of high school, they come from the workplace, they may have been parents and their kids grew up and now they come back to school.
Mhm.
There's so many different stories at community college, and you certainly have a unique story. Now, when you started community college, you had done your GED.
Right.
You essentially came out of high school, and you were a local guy, right? You came from Los Altos area to go to Foothill, correct?
Yeah. I had lived all around the area, whether it's Sunnyvale, Los Altos, Mountain View.
Yeah, so local, right? This is a great community resource in community college. That's been a local lifeline for folks like you. Boy, you've worked so hard. You got such a great story.
Hey.
What message do you have for donors and friends of Foothill and De Anza who support students? What would you like to share with them?
I have to say that your support can be the difference between a student or many students, I'd have to say, graduating, being able to graduate and being able to transfer or not. And the same goes for being hungry or being able to eat, being homeless or having somewhere to sleep. Not only for students, excuse me, but for their families too. And I'm proud to say that I'm a Foothill alum, and I don't know that it would have been possible without the support of you all.
Thank you, Matt. And as you think about folks that helped you along the way, is there a particular story you wanted to share about maybe it's a staff person or an instructor or an administrator who at Foothill helped you along the way? You're welcome to give them a personal shout out or keep them anonymous. But is there a story or a shout out you'd like to give?
It's funny that when you say that, a dozen people come to mind. Oh, so many. From, again, administrators to staff and faculty. But I think that the first person that really made me feel comfortable talking about my situation, which ultimately led to me being able to get the support I needed, was Professor Preston Nee. a fantastic communications professor who I opened up with, and he began to direct me to some of the amazing people that I met along the way, like Simon Pennington, a fantastic guy who just really changed the way that I look at community college. And they both inspired me to continue my education and to be where I am now. So I definitely want to thank those two, but many others as well.
I know they'll appreciate the shout out. So tell the folks who may be watching this, what's next for you? You just started at UCLA just a few months back here in December 2020. Where do you want to take this? What are you studying and where do you want to go?
Right now, I'm studying linguistics and psychology, and I'm planning on pursuing a master's in social work, which is not entirely related to linguistics and psychology. But I'll tell you that I don't regret being here for this undergraduate degree, and I'm excited to hopefully pursue a master's in social work at either UCLA, USC, Columbia, or any other fantastic university. But my plan is to go into social work and continue to make change, starting on the ground level, but eventually moving up, hopefully, to make systemic change that can fix some of the issues that we have, particularly around basic needs.
And what words of wisdom, Matt, would you have for a community college student who perhaps is not sure what direction they want to go, but knows they should go to Foothill or De Anza to try to find their way? What words of wisdom would you offer?
I would say to them, talk a lot. Talk to everyone you can. Let them know what your needs are, what you want, and listen when they talk back to you. Because there are so many people at Foothill and De Anza that have knowledge that you can't get anywhere else, advice that will stick with you for life and will change your life. So talk and listen, and make sure that you talk, because people might not come to you without you going to them first. So be vocal.
Well, Matt, there are so many wonderful Foothill and De Anza alumni out there like you, and we're just incredibly proud of the hard work you've done. Is there anything else you wanted to share with the folks who may be watching?
I cannot put into words how much community college has changed my life from where I was in high school, even before that, and where I am now. There's not a moment before Foothill that I would have pictured myself where I am now, and as happy and, by my own definition, as successful as I am. So I just want to express my gratitude and just say thank you.
Well, Matt, Bodo, thank you for making time for this brief interview, and thank you for sharing your story with the Foothill-De Anza community, our faculty, our friends, our students. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks.
Absolutely.